It's time for another little outdoor survival challenge. It's middle of winter, and that's what the focus is going to be on this time, is being out in really cold temperatures in the snow, and experiencing whatever else the weather throws at me. And of course the priority for me is to take care of a shelter and a fire. It's absolutely imperative that I get a fire going tonight. I've got a folding saw, Barco folding saw, Maracniv knife, stainless steel water bottle, and the clothes that I'm wearing. I've got a few different layers, and then I've got a raincoat, poncho raincoat. So that's the gear I'm taking this time. So I'm really wanting to find, as I'm hiking, to some materials to make friction fire. Finding dry stuff is going to be today's biggest challenge. There is a patch of pines right here, and standing dead trees are going to be my best option for finding dry wood. So there's a good patch over here. I'm going to see what I can forage from this. So this is a upturned pine tree, so you can see all the roots. The roots actually seem to be fantastic consistency for friction fire making. I'm pretty excited about this because I've been hiking for about an hour and a half. It's predominantly pine, and I'm starting to get into fir now. But fir trees and pine trees, it's not ideal for friction fire. There's just too much of a resin content in the wood to get a good ember. But this right here seems to be fantastic. It's nice and soft. So I'm going to cut off a piece, and I'll show you when I push my knife blade into it how soft it is. See if I take my fingernail and I push it into the wood, then I remove it. You can clearly see that indentation, right? So that to me is the best. This you can also the weight. It should feel like balsa wood. When it's real light, that means that it's dry, and it's a soft wood. Okay, when it's light, so you want dry, soft wood. This is giving me all the indications that I would like to see to make me feel confident that it's going to work as a friction fire kit. But friction fire is never a done deal. It's dependent on so many factors that it's never guaranteed. So but I do feel confident in that piece. See how you've got all this pitch leaking out of the tree here. This stuff is really good for starting fires. So what I want to do though is try and get some of the sapwood, so some of the wood that's actually absorbed some of the resin. Pine resin contains turpentine, so it's flammable. Can be a little tricky if you're just using an ember with just resin. Ideally, as I said, you want like the sapwood or fatwood, heartwood, there's various names for it. And then you'll grind it up or cut it up into very thin flakes. Check this out. If you have a look at this piece of wood, you can see I've pulled off the bark, but it's taken some of the wood with it. You can actually see how the wood's turned yellow in color. This is ideal. This is exactly what I'm looking for. So the grass is pretty dry. This is just some perfect tinder material. For tinder, we want something that's light, thin, dry, and fluffy, ideally, which can be challenging. It depends on the environment you're in. Sometimes it's easy to find, no problem, you got plenty, but other times it's quite challenging, especially here and especially being dry. So as you can see, the base is all wet, it's in the snow, but this stuff here has just started getting touched by the sun. The sun has just come out, so actually this stuff is fairly dry. So what I want to do is trim it off just above the frost line, because I don't want that wet stuff. The combination of the grass and the fatwood, the pine wood, is going to be I think a pretty good combination for getting a fire going, provided I can get an ember with the bow drill. Spotted a bird's nest in this tree. I'm going to check it out. This nest is lined with mud, which I find fascinating. I think it's made by a swallow. There's obviously no eggs or bird inside, so I'm just going to leave it alone. Here's the first sign of a creek. Got a nice little water source there. Too dangerous to get down into though. That snow is way too thick. So keep hiking, but it's a good sign. Not really desperate about finding water. It would be nice to find some fish, but got plenty of snow for hydration. Oh, it's getting thick. There's a little creek over here I want to go check out. The snow is thick. I'm trying to find somewhere to build shelter, somewhere where the snow is not too thick. I want some natural shelter from the trees that are growing. Look at these squirrel tracks. This is what's so awesome about the snow, is you can see all of the animal activity. You can see deer tracks and raccoons, all sorts of activity. So you can, I don't know if you can see it, but down there we've got a little creek, and there's definitely been some animals walking around there. Just trying to find a good spot to build a shelter. Look at this little natural dome-shaped tree. It's actually a live tree that's just bent over. That's a perfect ridgepole for a little lean-to shelter. I'll dig out some of the snow underneath, line up with boughs, cover the top with a bunch of branches. That'll be a nice cozy little spot to spend the night. So I think this is going to work. Placement of your shelter is very important. You want to know what the wind direction is going to do. Right over here in this direction, we have the mountain tops, the peaks, the highest points. So you've got these winds coming down off there going in this direction. So I want to make sure that I either have my shelter, the back of my shelter facing the wind, but ultimately side on. I figure that the wind shift, could change by 180 degrees. So I feel like this is the safest bet. If it was the other way around and I had the wind blowing straight into my shelter, that's very ineffective. So keep that in mind. Got a lot of snow on the ground, so I'm going to have to put a lot of fir boughs down to create a bed that elevates me at least 4 or 5 inches off the ground. I'm also going to have to put a bunch of green logs and stuff on the ground in front of the shelter to build my fire upon. Because if I build the fire straight on the snow, it's going to end up melting through the snow and collapsing into the snow. So, got a bit more work to do. I'm now making my friction fire kit, which consists of the bow, the spindle, the fireboard, and the bearing block. During this process, I went through several failures before finally achieving success.
Knowing the technique and what materials to find for a friction fire kit is only one piece of the puzzle. Understanding how to troubleshoot why it's not working is just as important, if not the most important. Through my failures, you will see that how I diagnose the problems and overcome them, and hopefully you take a lot away from this.
Okay, so now I'm trying to put together my Tinder Bundle. I have the dry grass, which I've harvested earlier, as well as this sapwood from the pine tree. So what I'm going to do is carve real thin little segments, little slices, and I want to drop all of this into the Tinder Bundle. I'd like to get it in the sort of middle of my little bird's nest, because I really want to form a pile. When I generate an ember, I want that ember to come in contact with the fat wood as opposed to the grass. Grass burns real quick and real, just ignites fairly quickly and easily and burns out pretty quickly. So I really want I need a good, solid, consistent flame to ignite some kindling. Alright, so I've got my different fire kit components made up, just finishing up my bearing block, my hand-held piece, and I'm hoping and praying for the best. Been using my poncho here to keep everything dry. I got my bow made up. I've got this piece of dry wood here that I'm going to use as my ember catcher. That's my fireboard right there, and then this is the spindle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is pick my spot and go pretty much in the middle. I'm going to just create a little indentation there, which will help me start up my bow drill. Okay, not too deep, just deep enough so that the spindle doesn't jump out. Perfect. I want this to be nice and flat and sturdy, just like that. Got my Tinder Bundle ready. Start off slow. A little more pressure, a little more speed. Stop right there and just take a look. So I like the dust buildup. It is black and it's very fine. That's good, because usually if it's very flaky and chunky, that indicates there's moisture or resin in the wood. See the yellow line around the spindle? That indicates there's moisture in the wood. Now, I don't expect to come out here in these conditions and get perfectly dry wood, but you can still get a fire going when there's a little bit of moisture, but too much moisture and it's going to fight against you. I'm using the consistency of the dust right now as my indicator, and that's a good sign, what I'm seeing. So I feel like this could work. So I'm going to trim off this a little more. I'm going to cut my V-notch, and then I'm going to actually go for an ember. So we've got our V-notch. It's very important to cut a V-notch because that's where the ember falls down into. And without that, we're going to create a lot of dust with nowhere to go. Nope, not yet. When you suspect something's not going right, it's no point in flogging a dead horse. Change it up. I just feel like I'm at the position now where I can get an ember, but there's too much flex in my bow, and I don't like that because the spindle does tend to slip a little bit in the string. So I'm gonna go and find myself a better bow that's slightly straighter, stiffer, and then come back and give it a go again. Oh, that's a good sign. Oh, I think I got one. Now, I need to not break that thing up. I need to get that in the Tinder Bundle, so I'm not out of the woods yet. This is where the wind can really screw you, as well as some unsteady hands. Shit. I lost it. Fuck, my sapwood didn't work. Got the ember, I didn't have success with the fatwood. Who knows why? I've had it work many times, great, but unfortunately not this time. So what I've done is taken some of the grass, I've just kind of made a ball of it in my hand, and see the texture of it actually kind of like a cotton ball. It sticks together pretty well. So what I'm going to do is flatten this out a bit, and I'm going to put my ember right there, and I'm going to try this. So, you know, if something doesn't work, you just keep trying something else. Round 3 or round 4. A lot of perseverance. So I've gone pretty much through the board. So I'm going to start up another hole. Now listen, this stuff here, this is gold right there. So don't get rid of this stuff. Take this, put in your oh, it's a fat old ember. If I can't get my fire going with this, then I don't know if I deserve one. What I'm working with right now. I've made many fires with Tinder bundles, no bigger than this. It might be in business, but it's never over till the fat lady sings. Get some of this fat wood to burn would be great. Yeah, there we go. See the fat wood? This has just saved and guaranteed me a fire. Look at that. See all the black smoke coming off? That's all the turpentine. So I'm going to keep this section of fat wood here for future, but that right there is a fire. You know what the biggest thing too is that, of course, I want to be warm tonight and not die of hypothermia, but I want to be able to warm up my water. Every time you drink some water or eat some snow, it's freezing cold and it chills your core temperature. So looking forward to doing that. The biggest thing with the survival psychology is just to focus on one thing at a time. You know, one little goal, build a shelter. Next little goal, build a fire. You know, achieve those little things. Don't get all worked up about the big picture. You know, how am I going to get some food next? When am I going to get help? Just one thing at a time. Set little goals, achieve those goals, move on. That's how you manage psychologically. Finally, I get to melt some snow and drink a nice warm bottle of water. Well, what a day. It was a good day, very, very physical. But it feels so good to be in the shelter, nice fire right next to me, and feeling warm and horizontal. And hopefully I'll get a little bit of sleep tonight. The wind is howling. Fairly sheltered right here, which is great, but the wind is just going crazy. So we'll see if we get snow tonight. It'd be nice if we didn't, but nature's gonna do what it's gonna do. So yep, off to bed.
Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe on your way out. Adios.